this thing on chat. Oh, damn. Man, they got me strong. I'm in the weight room, chat. They got me in here looking like Braun. Hold on, man. What we doing? Philly, what we doing?
It was a schmedium. Coming up on NBA Today, while Jaylen Brown is digging his new threads, it was something else he said in last night's live stream that is putting the rest of the East on notice. Let's begin our show with the Philadelphia 76ers. Why not? Because I don't know about you, but quite frankly, I still cannot wrap my head around the fact that this is going to be the starting lineup for the 76ers this upcoming NBA season. Remember, this group has averaged over 120 points a game last season. Only the Nuggets and the Heat, when you're looking at teams, scored more points per game. That's as a whole group last season, which is absolutely wild. And I'm not the only one who still can't believe that LeBron James is a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. Just listen to VJ Edgecombe, who caught up with Arshanae Agumake over the weekend.
What would you say is the ultimate expectation for the squad?
Championship, it's a championship or a bust. You know how it is. Especially with a team like this, it's like it's either a championship or they suck, and proving everyone that's saying we ain't gonna gel or nothing like that. So, but I know I'm playing alongside great players. Nobody has egos. We've all been in communication, stuff like that. So I'm really happy.
Championship or bust, as we say hello here to Anthony Slater. We're going to be joined by Vince Goodwill and Bobby Marks here momentarily. You say their names and they appear. Vince, I want to start with you here. There's a lot to unpack, but when you think about what is going to be the biggest, what do you think is going to be the biggest hurdle in the way of the 76ers? When you say championship or bust, that's a whole lot of pressure. How do you digest that?
Not only is it a whole lot of pressure, it's a lot of acclamation. You're just not adding LeBron James, Malika. You're also adding Jaylen Brown. Those are two pretty big pieces, in addition to load management of Joel Embiid, and LeBron James is going to be 42 years old. Like, you cannot expect to run LeBron out there for 82 games out of the season and figuring out roles. Like, I've been talking to executives and coaches over the past week or so and asking them what they think Philadelphia's issues are going to be, at least relative to the New York Knicks, the NBA champs. And they said chemistry is going to be a big thing, sacrifice is another thing, and who's going to defend arguably is going to be the biggest thing for that starting five unit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about, certainly with the X's and O's. But Slater, you've covered a team that is at a superstar and the expectations go above and beyond. And we know when we look at the history, LeBron James, he tends to win in his second year with teams. When you look at Cleveland, when you look at Miami, when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, what is that pressure? You saw it firsthand when you covered Kevin Durant getting added to the Warriors.
Yeah, I think one of the main things is sacrifice. I can remember that first Durant Curry season. It really took all the way up until Christmas. They lost in Cleveland. You might remember Kevin Durant stumbled late, and there was a conversation between Steve Kerr and Steph Curry on the plane ride back, about Steph, be yourself. If Steph was deferring almost a little bit too much. Klay Thompson really wasn't deferring as much because Klay Thompson tends to not defer. But, I do wonder which of these guys are going to be the one to throttle back. And, it's interesting because I think that a conversation has been maybe it's Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, you're looking right here. He had a 35% usage rate last year.
Right.
That was third in the league. He's 29. He was sixth in the MVP. I am curious that he is the one that I think to a lot of people is the one that needs to throttle back. But I also understand because he's the one that maybe can slash, defend, do all that. But I'm not sure he's looking to lower that usage rate too much.
Bobby, what do you think of this?
I think defensively, Malika. I think offensively, I think they're going to be potent, certainly with the ability with LeBron and adding Jaylen Brown. I think defensively, this is a team that ranked 17th in efficiency. They had the third worst defensive team in the playoffs here. I think the ability to get stops late in games, I think, is going to be key for this Sixers team. I think there's so many new faces, too. It's almost like put a name tag on each player when you get to training camp, just based on the newness here. But defensively is going to be a little bit of the calling card as far as how they can kind of separate themselves from some of these other teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and when you look at the Eastern Conference, Bobby, I'm not sure that you have the same sort of runway that maybe you would in years past. And what I mean by that is, let's say the 76ers get off to a little bit of a slow start. All of a sudden, the conversation starts to get very loud, number one. And then number two, the uphill battle, it's not as easy to push that rock up the hill in this Eastern Conference, Bobby.
100%. I mean, I think when you look at the East, I think there's probably 13 teams that can contend for the 10 spots. I think it's a lot different than 2 years ago when Philadelphia added Paul George and they struggled throughout the year. And we kept on saying, well, the Eastern Conference was forgiving. They'll be able to make a run. I think here, if you get off to a slow start, you're going to be battling just to get home court advantage in the first round.
I do agree that the standings will be something to watch and something they can't get too far behind, but I don't think the pressure is too much of a concern. LeBron James has faced it before, right? Jaylen Brown has lost in the finals disappointingly and won in the finals, played in a market like Boston. That's not a weak market to play in. Joel Embiid's been in Philly forever. Tyrese Maxey, I mean, he's beloved in Philadelphia. So, I've been around these teams that the Durant teams, for example, there was a lot of attention, particularly early in the season, big game moments, but over the course of an NBA calendar, you have chances to take deep breaths, and especially in Philly, where I think a lot of attention will be on the Eagles, through that first part of the
That may be true, but we know one thing about Philly sports fans, Vinny. They are known for being very, very kind and very, very patient with their teams, right? I mean, not so much as we love Philadelphia sports fans. But when you're looking, Vinny, at this group, you have mentioned Joel Embiid as someone that you're going to be watching incredibly closely here, because this is, as VJ Edgecombe said, championship or bust, and that requires availability from Joel.
Requires availability, requires an embracing of a role. Like, he's not going to be the same 30-point-a-night guy that no matter how many games he played in over the past few years, what he's been before with injuries, he's inserted himself and been a high-usage 30-point game a guy sort of system that he is. And that's not going to be the case this year. And I think the big thing for the Philadelphia 76ers is going to be continuity. How much continuity will you have by March 1st? And you go into that sprint, the last 6 weeks of the regular season. How many games will Embiid have played in? How many games will LeBron James have played in? And will they be able to develop enough continuity to make a legitimate run in the Eastern Conference?
That's a good point. Bobby, Ramona Shelburne has reported on this show before that there were some, I won't say conversations, but there was awareness as to what Joel Embiid's future could look like in Philadelphia before they landed LeBron James. That seems to have been quashed for now, but is there a possibility that those could reopen as we head towards the trade deadline midseason if we're not seeing that health?
I think that contract is awfully difficult to move down the road. Remember, this is year one of that 3-year extension that's beginning right now. Average salary a little over north of $60 million. I think if they get to a point down the road, he's going to need to show that he's healthy out there.
All right, well, that's something that we're going to keep an eye on as the season gets rolling. But, Vinny, have you checked your timeline lately? Have you been on the interwebs? It's dunk week over on NBA Twitter. And since we're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, we thought we would take a look back at some of the best dunks from this new-look squad. Look out, Tyrese Maxey driving to the basket. Excuse me.
Lefty dunks always
with
look
the
better.
left hand, Malika.
Yeah, over Ant-Man with a little stare down afterwards. Get to a hype man like Kelly Oubre. All right, let's check this out. Jaylen Brown detonates in the paint. Was this when the Moose was not so loose? Moussa Diabate.
He was certainly looser in that home game against Detroit, I will say. A little looser.
All right, coming in at number 3, VJ Edgecombe. Ooh, he gave us some high-flying highlights this year. This one over Tony Bradley here, Slater.
I know we started the show with an interview with him, but I also feel like he's in some ways been the forgotten name. Like, he had such a massive rookie year. I do wonder as he slides back into that.
I love the little wave. This is for King James, taking it to the rim. You know what? He's saying, I may be in my 40s, but I can still throw it down.
Creaking over that rim.
And he lets him hear it afterwards.
Yeah, it's not a vintage. That's not vintage LeBron. That's a Father Prime LeBron.
Number 1, Jaylen Brown.
A little bit more youth in that dunk.
Exactly. With the stare down, he's saying, no, don't call me for the foul. That was all highlights.